Sasa hivi tunajenga zaidi ya masoko 400 katika Jamhuri ya Kenya. Hapa Meru tuko na soko 14 ambazo tunajenga hapa Meru County, ili mama mboga aone mahali pazuri pa kuuzia bidhaa. Kuwe na mahali ile mboga itabaki ama nyanya ama cabbage, kuna refrigerator ama cold room ya kuhifadhi hiyo bidhaa. Mama auze kesho kutwa, next week, mpaka ile stock iishe. Na hiyo tulisema ndio bottom up. Sio ndio bottom up? Sio ndio bottom up? Unajua watu wanauliza bottom ilienda wapi? Bottom up ndio hiyo.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Ndimuli. Yes, indeed, Professor Kithure Kindiki has become one of the most talked about individuals this past weekend following that court decision on Friday, which declared, and this was a court of appeal, which declared that a lower court which had been empaneled by the DCJ was not procedural, leaving questions on the legitimacy of Kithure Kindiki, and now opposition leaders are calling for Kindiki's resignation. And that's a story we intended to play for you, opposition leaders calling for the Deputy President's resignation. I don't know if we have it. If not, we can just continue with the discussions here in studio, and allow me to welcome my panelists this morning. Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River. Good morning, karibu sana.
Good morning, Kenya.
Next to Bwana Mungatana, we have Samuel Pugisio, who has served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament and also as a Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki II administration. Bwana Pugisio, it's a pleasure to have you in studio.
Good morning.
Now, many Kenyans left wondering what next after a court pronounced itself on a matter as important as it did on Friday with regard to that whole process of impeachment. If at all the court process was not properly followed through, it does indeed raise questions about the legitimacy of the entire impeachment process. You are an officer of the court as well. Kindly clarify for us what should happen next.
Kenyans listening to me must know that the litigation process is a long process. If you start at the High Court, there is the Court of Appeal, and there is the Supreme Court for appropriate cases. If you start at the Magistrates Court, you go to the High Court, you go to the Court of Appeal, you go to the Supreme Court. So that was the opinion and the decision of the Court of Appeal. But there is still another level. The final court in Kenya would be the Supreme Court. So most likely the litigants who didn't get a favorable decision would appeal that decision and would seek a stay of those execution of those orders. So most likely that decision may not be effected for now, and we will wait for an interpretation in the Supreme Court. Whether the Supreme Court will agree with the Court of Appeal or not is a matter of conjecture. And again, we should know that it doesn't have to end up in litigation. It doesn't have to go all the way to the Court of Appeal. Even as stay orders are there, nothing stops the parties from seeking what we call ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution, which essentially means that if one of the litigants and the other litigants make some form of agreement, then the matter doesn't have to proceed. The whole thing ends there, because in law we say that a bad consent between litigants is better than a perfect judgment, because normally the litigants are the ones who are directly affected, and when they make an agreement one way or the other, it serves the ends of justice better than when another party makes the agreement for you or forces a decision on you. So either of those two parts are possible right now. So for me, I see, okay, it's news, but really for most lawyers or people who are in this space will know that it's not over until it's over.
Yes, but definitely for political purposes, it does excite at least one of the sides. The fact that, barring all this intervention that you've talked about, the Court of Appeal pronounced itself. If we may just go with what the Court of Appeal said, does it raise issues of legitimacy on the position of the Deputy President?
It depends on interpretation. Depends on interpretations. So that's why I'm saying maybe other people can discuss that and say this or the other. But for me, for as long as there's an appeal process, the litigation is not over. So I can't, for example, now talk about legitimacy right now when it's obvious that tomorrow, the day after, whatever, they'll get a stay. So then what are we talking about? I think it's just throwing things in the air.
Yes. Wanapugisi, what's your opinion on this? Because the court has pronounced itself. The impeachment process, this is the first time we saw it happen at that level. So definitely we don't have precedents. It has not happened before. Now when the Court of Appeal makes such a pronouncement, definitely questions will be asked. What happens next? You can see the hesitation even from the lawyer to give a substantive answer and say this is what will happen next. Are the opposition leaders right to call for his resignation at this point?
Well, I think one of the things that baffles me is give lawyers an opportunity to discuss and agree on anything, and it's very difficult. And so I've just been following the arguments by very senior lawyers, and the arguments are so varied. Some of them speak like my friend Ngatane here, and others are very categorical. It's finished. It's as if status quo has moved to where it was before the determination by the panel. And so there's going to be a duty to happen within the next 14 days, starting today, definitely. So it'll be a bit interesting to watch the move by the government or the Kindiki side, and move to what move they'll have to determine whether they are going to file the appeal, whether they're going to enter into some kind of discussions. The thing about it is very confusing right now for Kenyans, because when you listen to the debate by our own senior lawyers, and over the weekend you saw the politics around it. The politics around it was, we now have 2 deputy presidents. I guess literally, if you take it from lay people like us, you would think correctly there must be a situation in our hands where we have 2 deputy presidents. One is in office, the other one is out of office. But legally, if you take things back to the moment, you would be justified to say what politicians have said this weekend, that so Mr. Gachagua is back. And they're asking Mr. Kindiki to resign and allow Mr. Gachagua to continue with his position as deputy president. Now, that is the way, that simplified form of it. Of course, the lawyers have another way of looking at things. The courts will have to deal with the situation. I don't know what it does to the situation at the Supreme Court, where a deputy Chief Justice seems to have made a mistake, and empanelment. And so now a new panel, will that panel be, can it be a panel of a different kind? It must be, definitely. And when they go back to start listening from the beginning, if they go back to the beginning to start again, then it's going to be a different story we cannot predict from here. But the thing is, it's a very, very dicey situation of a legal nature in our hands. We are waiting to see the different interpretations. Lawyers are at it. I'm sure that they're reading their books to understand the law books, to see whether really Kindiki is properly in place. Yeah.
Can I say something about that? Is Kindiki back? I think
Kindiki or Gachagua?
Oh, sorry, is Gachagua back? Sorry. I think Kenyans listening to me should distinguish the politics, which is politics, you can say anything, You can even say that, Jesus was seen in Saudi Arabia, or he came and went, whatever. In politics, you can say anything. Basically, it is the art of selling hope. So people can be selling the hope that those who wish Gachagua to come back, they can be selling that hope. But in reality, let's look at it from the practical point of view. The National Assembly impeached the former deputy president, and then the hearing of the articles of impeachment was done in the Senate. The articles of impeachment were confirmed as per the Constitution. So this means that the impeachment was confirmed. And then the third thing is the lawyers for the former deputy president went to challenge that impeachment. So as it were, assuming that the empanelment is wrong, the impeachment still stays. That is, there was no pronunciation on whether the impeachment was right or wrong. So the articles of impeachment are still confirmed. That is the status quo ante, the status quo before the court process is back to where it was. The impeachment stands. But you see the politics, they will say, oh, Gachagua is back, oh, we demand resignation, oh, what. So Kenyans, I think, sometimes should distinguish the noise from reality. The reality of the matter is that the articles of impeachment stand. And the reality of the matter is that when our good friend was being advised to resign, even by his lawyers, he was whistling and saying, I will not resign. And we saw the drama. And all of us were wondering, what is this all about? When you know everything is not with you, there's already impeachment, and the mood in the house was different. You had 1,001 opportunities to take for you to take a step back, to live and fight another day. What I really honestly don't understand, I didn't understand that insistence when all the intelligence from your side, and at that time he was in office, so he must have been easy to get the intelligence. They were going to vote, the Senate was going to vote against you. Then the reasonable thing at that time, the opportunity presented itself for you to step back, you live to fight another day. Maybe you run for president, maybe you run for whatever office you want. But then insistence. So anyway, in brief, the impeachment stands. Whether the empanelment was right or wrong, the impeachment stands.
But doesn't it therefore
it was
taint
confirmed.
the process? Because you say as lawyers that the law is very clear. But at this point in time, we are not very clear about this law and the provisions thereabout. Because the issue is, for such a process, even away from the politics, it should ideally serve as a precedent moving forward. If at all we encounter this process ever again, we'll go back and say, this is what happened last time.
Correct.
This is a correct way of doing it.
Correct.
But if at all the court rules that there was something off in that process, doesn't that therefore taint the entire process of impeachment, meaning that looking back at it, it may not offer us any solace going forward? No,
it doesn't taint in any way, because the decisions of the court, and the law respects the three arms of government. You don't interfere with what the parliament is doing, that is National Assembly and Senate. And then you also don't argue cases, argue matters that are actively in court. The rules do not allow that. So at the same time, if you went to court, let's say there's a law being made and you don't like it, you can't go to court and injunct the Senate or the National Assembly against the lawmaking process. But you can wait for that law to come out, and then the courts will tell you, then you can bring and say it's unconstitutional, and you make your arguments, and they will make the argument, then they will do the interpretation. So there's that general rule that you don't interfere with the processes. So I'm saying that process and that decision of confirmation of the articles of impeachment, that decision stays. The issue of empanelment or no empanelment, it's after that decision. It's, let's say this has climbed from National Assembly to Senate, now it is after that. Now, these are legal things, but the actual substratum of the practical thing, it remains. Nobody has come to say that the Senate didn't vote or the National Assembly didn't vote. So for me, I mean, just free advice, which is never taken on the other side. Focus on your politics. These legal processes are taking you nowhere. Stop making noise and bringing false hope to Kenyans.
Yet it has a potential of changing the 2027 election, Bonapogisio, because if at all it was found that Rigathi Gachagua did not receive proper justice, then the issue of impeachment, the cloud of impeachment hanging above his head, will be off, and probably he can run for office come 2027. Definitely, there's an impact of that pronouncement by the court on Friday.
Yeah, and I'm a bit surprised that Danson simplifies it so much. It makes it so simple. But the process could be seen as dented, because you see there were some orders given by High Court judge against some of the things that happened. For example, against the panel, against the empanelment. And then there was this issue about the Deputy Chief Justice, and then the recusal of the judges, the fourth recusal, and then the process. All that is connected to the whole process. So there might be, the impeachment may have happened, but the legal system thereafter becomes part and parcel of the whole story. And so we can't say that because the instruments of impeachment will stay, the reason they went to court is because they argued against all that. And so I do believe that it's important to note that for politicians, any small win, you must be able to exploit that and make it look like it's a big subject matter. And this is not a very small win. This really takes us back. It's actually going to be at the center of legal studies and lawyers' arguments. You'll see a lot of big names of lawyers coming to try and argue from whichever side. And they already started over the weekend, and now you'll see this week again. The only reason I say that we should never simplify this matter or make it look like it's a light matter, it's no longer about, it's about, like you're saying, about the chances of it being thrown out. You see, the chances of opportunity here for those arguing for Gachagua, that they should be able then to re-strategize, re-argue, because things are going back to where they were. If there was any line of argument that they wanted to work on now, it's possible. And there's a possibility then that the Supreme Court itself would have to deal with the internal issues about then who sits in the bench and so on and so on. So yeah, so I do believe that it's not an easy matter. It's not a matter just and it's not about the politics on the other side. It's about the laws of the land. It's about actually, and people are watching to see what will happen in this case. Okay. Are we thinking that there was conspiracy? You know, that could be part. That can become part of the thinking. The whole strategy, was it deliberate at that particular time to deliver a particular judgment and so on. So we do believe that we can actually go back and see what the kind of drama that we'd like to see now will be taken out to the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal have done their job, and whoever is next will be the Supreme Court. Yes. Let's hope that justice will be served. I mean, not everybody was happy with the impeachment, the process itself, but it's now a moment to reflect, go back, and say, even for Parliament, by the way, even for Parliament, yes. To go back and think, by the way, did we do this thing the correct way? Well, what was our motivation? Did we succeed? Because even now, parliamentarians, politicians are moving in a manner that you don't understand. Some are moving towards this direction. So if that impeachment vote were to be put again, it might not even have gone the way it did. So we have all these arguments about law, and we have a lawyer, but we have this argument about the legality, the matter of law itself that comes to the Supreme Court. They have to isolate what is really the essence in law so that they can deal with what, and the arguments are going to be many. We're going to have arguments including asking some of the judges to recuse themselves, not to participate, because they've already done something in this that failed. So I think it's going to be a very exciting moment for Kenyans.
Yes.
It will help us to have a look at if there was any interference, political interference in our systems.
Yes. Even for UDA, they may not really be interested in revisiting the issue of impeachment because it was really damaging to the party to a huge extent. If you look at the front page of the Daily Nation, they talk about Ruto stumbling from one crisis to another, and they list that impeachment as one of the crisis issues that the president is facing. Definitely, even politically, just having this discussion coming back, the issue of impeachment coming back to the front pages, it's not something even the president would want, Senator.
The issue that was listed in the front page of one of the dailies is fueling, Gachagua fueling Mount Kenya rebellion. It's not the impeachment.
As a result of the impeachment?
No, it's
there
not.
There was no rebellion before the impeachment.
Yeah, but Gachagua fueling rebellion in Mount Kenya, that's the issue. And it's not the impeachment per se. I'll tell you, Fred, that it's not just the president who has had issues with his deputy in Kenya. Governors who are also mini presidents in their counties have had issues with their deputies, yeah? And let me tell you, if you have a deputy who is, it's like a marriage that is painful. Every single day there's a quarrel, every single day there's a threat. You are much, much better off rethinking that situation and creating another marriage. And I would say again and again and again that even if we were to repeat the whole process, which is unlikely, but if say, I would still vote to impeach or to confirm Gachagua's impeachment. Remember, I'm the one who put the motion of censure before the motion of impeachment came to the Senate. And I had reasons. You cannot be a deputy president who champions a region, one region, you know. You cannot be a deputy president who is seen to belong to one side. But you can be a governor who champions your own county. You can be a senator who champions your own county. You can be a member of parliament who champions your own constituency. So the first and foremost point is the impeachment Gachagua was misplaced in that position. And the way I'm seeing it, by the way, he's not the only one. I have raised this issue in the Senate, and many other people have agreed with me that some of the cabinet ministers are also behaving like, members of parliament and village politicians. Because again, as a cabinet secretary, you cannot also start championing your region. It's wrong. You cannot go to a presidential, platform and stand up and say, I have brought development this side. What about us? What about the other side that doesn't have cabinet secretaries? You know, I think people must get it in their heads. When you take that oath of office for a position for the nation, then behave like one. If you take an oath of office to be a member of parliament, that's okay. Behave like a member of parliament. Even though you have national duties, but your primary duty is for your constituency. Same for me. As a senator, I have national duties, but my primary duty is Tana River County. But a governor is not like me. A governor can say anything and everything around his county, because that is really what he's limited to. A senator will have also national duty. A member of parliament in the National Assembly will have also duty. So from where I sit, I think that the impeachment of Gachagua was a good lesson, and I think somewhere along the path it was lost because he fought back using politics and saying that it is their tribe that was being frustrated and tried to lose the whole argument. But the whole thing is that cabinet secretaries, presidents, deputy presidents, please, if you permanent secretaries, you know, directors of national government offices, please carry out your duties like national office holders. But if you feel that's not where you belong, please just get out and go to where you belong. And for me, I think the whole impeachment was supposed to go down in history as that statement. But politics being politics, somebody tried to change it, to say it is my tribe, which is being fought.
Yes. Bonapugiso, do you think that this has, the fact that we are revisiting this, and it would appear that, according to the pronouncement by the Court of Appeal, that probably Rigathi Gachagua did not receive justice as he should, that this has a potential to further lionize Gachagua at a point where the president is really concerned about that trend in Mount Kenya region?
Well, it's very apparent, by the way, the situation, this judgment, whatever it was meant to achieve, will be achieved in the political arena. The thinking now is, you see, we told you, and that will galvanize, that will strengthen, actually, the Gachagua position. Again, with his people and his sympathizers, wherever they are. But it will also look like, and as I said before, it might look like there was a conspiracy that involved a crossing over or an overreach into the judiciary. And that can bring a bit of problem to the judiciary at this particular point. And especially now a matter like in the Supreme Court now, going forward. Again, nobody understands how a deputy chief justice or the whole whatever Supreme Court could not interpret what was now decided, that a deputy does not have the same powers as a chief justice to impanel. And so those kind of issues, those are the high stake issues. And I do believe that for a politician, that is another piece of weapon, of ammunition to advance your position. That you see, I was justified in what I was doing. The process was wrong, the process was corrupted, and things like that. So we have issues because eventually you're fighting off an impeachment. And if you succeed in fighting off an impeachment, you have a good chance of advancing your political ideas and even running for office. You see, that's why this is a very important decision, because it's a matter of life and death for a politician. If the impeachment stands, then he can't run for the next 10 years or so. And so if there's a window where you can fight that impeachment to get it out of your way, then you have a chance now of competing in a political space, whichever one that you want to decide, you want to deal with. And so this is not a small matter. This is a matter, as I said, of high stakes for politicians right now. I know that Mr. Ngatana has already said that it's decided. But if there's a window in law that can cause that not to be, that's what the other side will do. They'll fight for it. And so the next phase of our arguments, the next phase of this legal battle is going to be tougher than where it was earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a different story. And I talked about the issue on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto stumbles from one crisis to another. President Ruto has weathered several storms since assuming power in 2022. But after navigating one crisis, another crops up, testing even more the foundation of his administration. They talk about the budget showdown and opposition to taxes, uproar of IEBC nominees, row with governors on county cash, a two-faced Raila Odinga, growing opposition to the broad-based government, battling Kenyatta shadow, Gachagua fueling Mount Kenya rebellion, string of losses in court, and you could mention even this one we've just been talking about, public disquiet over performance by CSs, unfulfilled promises to the hustlers, fallout of MP Were's murder and Gen Z killings. Now, you must admit that this story is very candid about the president and what he has faced over the last 2-3 years or so, that probably he's not even had enough time to settle down and work properly over the 3 years. It's been crisis after crisis. Do you empathize or sympathize with the president? Or do you think some of these things are a creation of the same structure?
They say in news or reporting news, the little I have learned from experience is that when the dog bites the boy, it is not news. But when the boy bites the dog, that's when you report. That's when the news is there. And if this story was to be believed and to be fair, they would have listed achievements by the president vis-a-vis the problems encountered. I think just on the face of it, you can see that this is meant to show only one side of the story. And nobody wants to discuss the fact that at the time the president took over, we had a very serious threat of default on debt repayment. In fact, Kenya was listed down, Moody's, this international body that rates countries and their performance, and even big corporates. They were saying Kenya was going to default. I don't know, Kenya's position is going to be threatened, whatnot. The president stabilized that. Nobody celebrated. But this newspaper, this one and the other one, Standard, and the other ones, all of them were all talking about how Kenya is doing badly, how we are going to be crushed, and so on. We are on the brink of you remember those headlines? On the brink of precipice, precipice. I remember those kinds of things. And you wonder, do we have, fair reporting?
Are you saying this is unfair reporting?
It is unfair.
It's factual.
Fred,
all the 11 points are factual.
Correct. It is unfair because if you are fair, you need to report the good and the bad. You can't wake up and say bad, 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 and then you say this is the...
But Senator, they're not talking about the president's failures. They're talking about the problems he's facing and the challenges he's facing.
No, I'm saying in Kenya there have been a lot of successes, and I was listing the first one. The second one, the dollar was in a bad shape. The dollar was controlled. The third one, there was a fuel crisis. Fuel was restored. There were problems with fertilizers. Fertilizer prices were brought down. We subsidized production instead of the consumption. And the issues around universal health care, we passed the laws. Now it's implementation. I mean, we have set a foundation towards a country where people are going to now have proper health care managed. If managed well, we have made a big step forward on health care. And one can list on and on the African continent. Kenya's, under President Ruto, Kenya has really gone up, and I'm speaking with authority as the head of delegation for the Pan-African Parliament from Kenya. So these challenges are there. In every presidency, there are challenges. In every family, there are challenges. But to be fair, we've also had good successes that we don't celebrate. We don't celebrate the fact that we've had over 70,000 teachers employed in this country. And we don't celebrate the fact that at some point we were paying the monies that are supposed to go to the county right on time. And governors were even coming out to say that things are moving better now than they were before. But then when problems come, people want to discuss about the problems. They don't want to remember the good things. And so from where I sit, these are normal challenges for any administration. Just like in the House, you will have challenges in running family affairs, but it should not make people lose focus that the country is moving forward. Our nation is the pride of many other countries. That's why we have many people from so many countries around Africa who want to settle here, who want to make Kenya their home. And this nation, with its freedoms and with its with the foundations that we have laid under our constitution, we have the right driver for this time.
Okay.
I'm telling you, if we had a laid-back president now who is not going for things, who is not pushing as hard as Ruto is, then maybe this country will be in a different position.
And Senator, I'll have to fact check you on one issue: the dollar rates as at August 2022. In fact, the whole year averaged 122 to the Kenya shilling. That is, as according to the Central Bank of Kenya.
Yes.
As at August 2022. Yes. So it is not true that the
went
dollar rate
down.
Was higher when Uhuru Kenyatta was president.
I'm not talking about Uhuru Kenyatta. When we were taking over, we were talking about 150.
It was low. No, it was actually 118, 122. It later went to 100.
It went very high.
Yes, after that.
No, at the time
when William Ruto was president.
Let me just say this.
Yes.
Everybody knows that there was a very serious dollar crunch. Anybody in business knew at that time. And why? Because the oil companies were taking over $500 million every end of month to pay cash. When the president came in and made some arrangements with UAE and whatever, then the dollar crunch reduced, okay, and the value of the Kenyan shillings was stabilized. Credit the president. You know, in Kiswahili we say, mgala muupe, muue, lakini haki yake mpe. There's no haki in this nation.
But Apugisio, some of the issues listed on the front page of the Daily Nation could actually be considered as having been self-engineered by this same administration. Of course, Senator here appears shy to talk about the issues here, but these are genuine and factual crises that the president has faced. Should we ignore them, really?
Fred, we cannot ignore this. This is helpful to the government. Actually, I don't understand how you would even oppose this. This is information that would be helpful with any government to say, wow, so we have had this crisis after another, and can help improve the way the government works. You know, my friend, Senator Mungatana, has also looked at only one side. Mm-hmm. He has also ignored the negative sides of performance, just the same way as this news has done the other way around. So I think it all balances out. When you are in government, you develop what you would call a blind spot, you know, and you develop something called selective perception. You only see the things that you want to see. And when you're in opposition, you're probably, when you're outside of government, let's not say opposition, when you're outside of government, there are certain things that you see that they cannot see. And so it balances out that the people who are seeing other things are put this in a very good document here that should help the government to say, all right, we may have successes, but what are holding us back? Where have we made mistakes? What can we do about this? And each of this has information that can be helpful. Mm-hmm. Each of them, and I'm not talking only about, we cannot ignore, for example, the first one. Mm-hmm. Budget showdown and opposition to new taxes. That is what led to the crisis we had last year. And so how can you even ignore that? That's a very major crisis. It cost the government to take certain actions against their will. So you can't say ignore that. But it informs you because there is another finance bill coming up. And if you didn't learn from the first finance bill, there's one coming up now which could repeat the story of the last finance bill. You know, right now everybody's scrutinizing the current finance bill. and people are noticing things in the finance bill that will continue to be a big crisis. So you cannot ignore some of the things. I think, Mungatana, this should be helpful for you as Parliament, because the center, the epicenter of these problems, especially on the bills, is Parliament. Now, the second one, you can't say you can ignore it, because already it's a crisis. I don't know what to fight about it, but the politicians and the parties that are not happy with this will raise this matter. It's important, again, that you explain how you arrived at these choices and not these other ones. So we would expect that each of this, and if I don't think we should go, the most current one, even as we speak now, is the role with governors on county cash. How can you ignore that? I mean, it's not, you can't say it is a fault. You can't say it is an achievement. No, you can't say that. Because right now, the governors are really up in arms about their monies. And if you listen to former Prime Minister Raila, he is with the governors on this issue. Because he's saying we have already devolved. Some of the things the money should go and do the work there. Now, if you look at the headlines again, money is being taken from counties to come back to the center. So I just want to convince my friend here that much as you can list the achievements, there are obstacles and there are tough situations that will be recurring unless they are dealt with, and that would help in running of government. Okay, growing opposition to broad-based government, I don't care about that. The Kenyatta shadow, it's being battled. Why would you even battle a shadow? A string of losses in court, that's not something to worry about, because it's very clear that it is, including this particular one. But come to number 9, for example. There's a public disquiet over performances by CSS, and he has already mentioned some of those. I would like to see some of those CSS impeached the way they impeached Gachagua. Let's not just talk about dissatisfaction. If we can actually remove them, and Parliament has the powers to do that, we should. Because actually, I heard, and I've been following some of the CSS only find legitimacy if they convince their people that we are taking money from government and bringing to you. Okay? So, and they even give amounts. Say, I have brought this to you, but not to everybody else. This is just for you. I mean, that alone should disqualify a CS. But do they have the guts to even touch one of the CSs? I don't know. So I do believe that there is actually, some of them are a bit small things, but there are some key ones here that would help a government, re-examine itself.
And both of you have had an opportunity to work very close in governments at cabinet level. Senator, are you saying that this is unusual for this administration? Is this what we see in any new administration 2 years, 3 years in, or is this different?
The cycle in government is that ordinarily the first 2 years are very difficult. And it is normal, not just in Kenya, but even in mature democracy, that after you get into government, you are outside. When you get in and you have all the files before you, you get to know some things that you thought you knew but you didn't know. And then you get to see the position in reality, how bad or how good it is. So and then normally, by the time you are getting into office, you are implementing actually a budget that is not yours. It's a budget that was passed by the administration that has just left, okay? So the first year, you are finding your footing. The second year is when now you are trying to stamp your authority. You're trying to say, this is now my budget, and this is how I'm going to raise the money. This is how I'm raising the revenues. This is my planned expenditure, and these are my priorities. Now, remember, for us, in our administration, the current one, there was a whole hullabaloo around the finance bill, which is the one that has the revenue-raising measures. So that wasn't passed. So the whole planning and whatever was put in disarray. So for about 2 years, you are fighting political wars. And imagine that even when you came in, you still had demonstrations out there in the street. So they have been challenging 2 years. But we've also had an equally combative president up to the terms and trying to confront those things. For the first time, you had a president who went out to explain to people, a president who from time to time would sit with national media and talk to them, answer questions, trying to explain to people, a president who would go out to the villages and to the counties to try and explain himself. So we've had an equally combative person who has tried to manage the situation, and we have to give credit to the president for what he has done. This would have been a different story. The style of management of Kibaki, the style of management of Uhuru would not have suited these kinds of challenge. So we've had 2 years, difficult years. Things are starting to settle. Now, these ones that are being bandied are not as tumultuous as the ones that we have just passed through. And my prediction is that once things settle down, universal health coverage settles down, issuance of IDs, like removal of all these impediments that were there, especially for us who come from the outer areas, not within the center of Kenya, removal of those things. When you see these programs working, some of these people who are going outside through the labor migration agreements, when these things settle down, when the affordable housing start being opened across the country, when some of the new agreements signed by China, the ones that the president went to do the other day, and he comes back and he says, now we are going to finish the SGR line. When these things start taking shape, the same people who are writing this will be the people clapping for President Ruto. But the people who will never clap for President Ruto are those who are interested in getting into position. So they will create crisis after another, artificial or otherwise. For example, now, I was shocked to see people talking against the IEBC process. I mean, that's why I'm saying in Kenya, the politicians create anything. We watched on national TV the interviews, the what. Now when the names come, you say, no, those names are wrong. It's like any decision, any election, for example, now it has become fashionable. You don't lose an election, the election is stolen. It's never lost, it's never won. Mm-hmm. And then whoever has won, it is not legitimate. And it's become fashionable. So it's also become fashionable that we shall resist anything that comes from IEBC, any process that comes through that. And I think it is not the people. It is not the people. Just like tribalism, it's not the people. It is people who create here, political people who create those stories for their advantage. So from where I sit, I believe we've come through a very tough time, and I don't envy Ruto at all, because he's gotten into office when things are tough. But I also believe that he's also the correct president for those tough times. Right. And over time, when things start settling down, the same people will come back and say, I think to be fair to him, he did a good job. Look at Kenya Airways, for example. For so many years, it has been making losses. Then all of a sudden, the tide is turning. And many things are going to be like that. But then newspapers will never report that.
All right.
They will never report that. They will never say now it's profitable, now it's what. And if anything is done there, it would be, a quarter, a tenth of, at the very corner there, mentioned as a by the way.
Okay.
So let us say that, yeah, we've come through a very tough time, but we also have an equally tough president. And I think that as we head towards the electioneering period, things will settle down. And I believe that then at the time that we need to judge him for his performance, he will still be doing well. Allow us to pay more attention to that IEBC issue. Yes, it's been listed there as part of the crisis that the president is facing. Number 2, uproar over IEBC nominees. Over the weekend, there was a lot of chatter and a lot of talk about the nomination. Some politicians have claimed that they were not included in the decision-making process. There's a story we filed here at TV47 about the Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka being bashed over IEBC. Critic has been one of those very vocal opposers of the reconstitution of IEBC and the way it was conducted. Let's watch that story and continue that conversation.
We have said it before that Mr. William Ruto cannot form an IEBC ambayo itamsaidia yeye kuendelea na tamu ambayo haiwezekani. And what we have right now in the nominees is a William Ruto IEBC. We clearly have a constitutional crisis. As we speak, we do not have a deputy president.
Yes.
We have 2 deputy presidents. I respect Kithure Kindiki. He is from my part of the country. He should do the honorable thing and resign so that he can now allow due process to take place. The ruling by the Court of Appeal has clearly demonstrated the illegality, the political manipulation that happened to try and get Rigathi Gachagua being dismissed as a deputy president.
The law as it stands today and the ruling that has been given means that Kenya has 2 deputy presidents. This is a situation, I want to agree with His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka, that is untenable. And we cannot, as a country, continue having 2 deputy presidents when our constitution provides for only 1. One has to go. And it means the elected people's deputy president remains Rigathi Gachagua.
A sharp critique from pro-Ruto politicians landed on Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka's desk a day after he tore into President Ruto for allegedly ignoring constitution requirements over the IEBC nominees list.
Matangazo ya kutangaza nani atakuwa commissioner iliwekwa kwa gazeti. Wewe mtu ulikuwa unataka kuwe IEBC chair, ungemwambia weka makaratasi. Sasa hakuweka makaratasi. Unataka nani?
Na kama Kalonzo ako na swali, asiulize rais. Yani mtu mdogo. It is not for the president to consult him. Hiyo majina sasa iko kwa bunge.
During a fundraising event in Nandi, President William Ruto's aide Farouk Kibet, together with other leaders, allied to President William Ruto, slammed Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka over his opposition to the president's nominees to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
IEBC inawekwa ya kusaidia wa Kenya ili uchaguzi ifanywe. Wanasema Ruto must.
Interview imefanywa kwa live TV. Unaanza kucomplain ya kwamba huyu ndiye amechaguliwa, huyu ndiye angechaguliwa. Bwana, kura ipigwe na IEBC. Kura inapigwa na wananchi.
According to Farouk, most electoral sub-counties have suffered without representatives, and therefore it would be better to have IEBC put in place for such purposes.
Sisi tunataka kusema kwamba wabunge mupitishe hii maneno ya IEBC ili tuwe na IEBC. Kuna constituencies ambazo hawana representative.
Na tunasema mambo ya IEBC ifanyike haraka sana, ili sisi wale ambao hawana representation wapate pia kupata nafasi ya kuongozwa.
National Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah and other leaders on their part termed Kalonzo's stand and that of his counterparts as tribal agendas. for what he said was profiling leaders based on their ethnicity.
Wale tulio na imani tunajua kupitia kwa Mwenyezi Mungu, sio uwezo wetu, ni uwezo wa Mwenyezi Mungu, tutafaulu.
Last week, President William Ruto nominated Erastus Edung from Turkana County as the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Ati sasa mtu anakasirika ati yule amekuwa chairman ama amekuwa mmoja wa wale ambao wanaenda kupigwa msasa ni Turkana.
Ndio Kenya ijue hata minorities wanaweza kutoa chairman wa IEBC.
Chichi, Josephine, TV 47.
Yes, just some of the comments and sentiments by William Ruto allied leaders on the constitution of the IEBC, the reconstitution of IEBC. There's one issue that has been raised, Bwana Pogisio, and that is the inclusion of one of the nominees to the commission whose name was not initially on the shortlist that was published on the dailies before the interviews. Hassan Nur Hassan is among 6 nominees whose names were introduced much later in the process. Now, these are issues that could raise legal challenges for the incoming IEBC. Are we saying that simply because we have time constraints, we should ignore some of these things?
Fred, and also we have a parliament that will pass anything as they're told to pass. It's very clear. The parliamentarians said one day that these CS nominees are not qualified. They do not, and they went ahead to get them sworn in. The reason I'm saying this is you should expect this from the other side, which is not in government. You should expect this. Why were people surprised? If you are in government, why are you surprised that Kalonzo Musyoka has raised those kind of issues? What is his role? What's the role? And you can, as you can see, those are very senior lawyers. They have a way, and they also get intelligence information. They have a way of looking at that list and determining that list is probably put there to favor one side. And who says, and I can see the arguments, who says that IEBC does not have an influence on an election? Okay? Definitely, they have an influence on election. If this election goes this way, they can also select field workers and put people from there who can be very hard on you. It happens. So I'm just thinking we should be able to say, allow these opposition figures to also raise their voices. Why are we suppressing them? If they don't raise these things on behalf of other Wananchi, their party members will begin to think they have been compromised. They will begin to think now, you guys have already gone to this broad-based system of government. So allow these guys to stand firm. They need to stand firm because what used to be Azimio is now split. And because of that, the remaining part of Azimio needs to be strong. And allow them to challenge these names. They have every right to challenge. After all, it is the process which is being challenged. How did you arrive at all these guys? Okay, the interviews were done. But when people raise the issue of 6 new names being introduced, and now one of them has landed here out of the 6, definitely you have to allow these guys to question some of these things. It is now going to be upon the government side, upon our parliamentarians here, to explain why was it important to introduce new 6 and for one of those to end up there. Was there something deliberate about it? And then look at the 5 names, look at the 6 names. Okay, the chairman just chairs, okay? Let's have a chairman, you can have a chairman. The questions about the chairman will come later when people look at whether he was actually qualified or not, but that doesn't matter. And I'm one of those people who will say I'll be very happy if a chairman is from one of these, very minority tribes, because I have always insisted we need to give a chance to minorities in this politics of ours, even for the presidency. However, for the 6 members that have been nominated, let's have a look at them. Let's be critical about who they are. You remember, by the way, that the crisis of IEBC in the last election comes out of this kind of situation. If there's a split, they make our elections very difficult. You know, if they have got sides, if they take sides like the last ones would take sides, would they make our elections difficult? So we cannot say that it is not important. It's very important who becomes part of the IEBC, yes. Especially the chair, the panel. I mean, the rest of the members of the council, whatever. The members of IEBC, so that the chairman is simply a chair, but he then becomes the one that announces, the one that finally announces, and the crisis of that last election is he could decide what to announce, and so these things are very important. I don't know how when I'm listening to the other side, the government side, saying IEBC doesn't vote, so why were we in a crisis last year, that 2 years ago, that led to the Supreme Court? Why were we in there? Because it's possible that it can be manipulated if there are not discussions. So what Kalonzo Musyoka is simply saying, he's simply saying that we needed a consultation, because this is not about president only. It's about political parties. The president, being head of a particular political party, should have been able to say to his colleagues who are heads of political parties, is the process okay? Can we discuss? Can we meet? And there's nothing wrong with that kind of discussion. Yeah. What they're saying is basically saying, we have issues to raise. Can we then meet and raise? Because this thing's gone now to Parliament. It will go to Parliament, okay? Parliamentarians will probably do what they need to do. But it will be very important for the process to be trusted. Yes.
Senator Mungatana, you must agree that the issue that has beleaguered any electoral body in Kenya is an issue of trust. That they've suffered from ECK, IEC, now IEBC. Correct. They've all suffered a serious trust deficit. Correct. That's why the process is so important. If at all questions are asked about the process and questions are raised about names being included that were never there before, these issues are the ones that are going to create a perception on whether or not this new body, new commission, can be trusted. Don't you think that this process needed a bit more care than what we've seen?
You see, what Kalonzo Musyoka politically is doing, when you stand in media, national television, and say, this is a William Ruto IEBC, you're trying to tell Kenyans, if I lose the election, I'm going to say it is illegitimate, because from the very beginning, it was a William Ruto, IEBC. But I think it's a very careless statement coming from a person like him, who has been in politics all these years. You think that you are gaining bonga points by abusing our institutions. You stand there, you say that IEBC is useless. You stand there, you say the police are useless. You stand there, you say the judiciary is useless. You know, as a political person of that level of understanding, you don't kill our institutions. You seek to improve our institutions, because we come and we go. Leadership comes and goes. But institutions remain, and institutions are what creates a nation. So I fault him. I fault him because he's making a careless statement. He should have come out and say exactly what his problem is, because he didn't say. He just said, this is a William Ruto,
He did say what his problem is. He said it needed more inclusion of political players in the final decision making.
No, but the process, let me...
The issue of the process about the inclusion of names, that he has not talked about. But Kalonzo Musyoka was very clear that he needed to be consulted, or the political class needed to be consulted in the final decision making.
No, the process was agreed in the NADCO. It was passed in the House, both houses, that there was going to be an interview panel, that political players were going to bring in people through whatever, that process. And the person who delayed this is the same Kalonzo Musyoka. The same Kalonzo Musyoka. He went to court, and IEBC the panel could not operate because they were having problems there fighting as Wiper, until he got whom he wanted. And the person he wanted to be in that interview panel came in, And the process went on. So his very person, the one he wanted, that lady came in, and she went, she interviewed these people. Now, even these issues of saying Nuru Hassan, I don't know, was brought in. By 25th March 2024, he was shortlisted. If these people felt there was a problem, there was nothing wrong with going to court at that point and saying this person is wrong, or we feel the interviews are, irresponsible, or we feel something is wrong with this process, because it's all over there in the country. And Kalonzo Musyoka should know Kenyans are not foolish, surely. We were seeing what was happening. We saw what was going on. You cannot just come and stand there. Where is William Ruto there? Where was he directing this whole thing? And if you have a problem with Nur Hassan, is it that you don't want people from the north, or what is your problem?
The issue with that is that 6 names were introduced after the IEBC had already published in the dailies.
No, let me ask you, Fred. It was all over the country. If that is an issue, if that indeed was the issue, did the courts close? Why didn't Kalonzo Musyoka is always jumping to court? Why didn't he run to court? All these political parties were there. Were the courts closed? Was the High Court closed? These people they just want to create a situation, a fake crisis. That's what I'm talking about. A fake crisis. And the delay was because of Wiper and Kalonzo Musyoka. That's why the panel is not there. I'm feeling bad because in Tana River we have Chewani Ward, which has not been having an MCA since the death of our MCA. And it happened almost just a year within the first year of the election. The people there have not been having representation. And it's wrong for someone to just make light of this thing. And I would want to challenge Kalonzo and ask him if he believed that the only way is for him to have somebody, from his side to be chair or to be a member of the IEBC. Why didn't they apply? When he made a whatever for Kokimuli to be in there and other people that he wanted, they were included. Mm-hmm. Now that we have reached this point, does he want us to backpedal? What is the thing? Okay. I feel some people feel that unless the person I want is there, then the process is not fair.
Yes.
They go to court and they say, unless the judgment is in my favor, then the process is not right. They go to an election and they say, unless I win the election, then the process is not fair. So I want to challenge him sometimes to be above, because he was surrounded by other politicians. He's way above that. He has been a vice president in this republic. His kind of statements must be measured. If he wants to make those kind of statements, send someone to say them. Surely, I wanted to say this again. That if the process was so open like that, and I believe even the voting would be open, the vetting would be open, I don't see what else Kalonzo Musyoka wants or those politicians.
But you've suggested that he should have gone to court back then. Are we saying that it's too late to go to court now?
He can. Why not? He can go to court anytime.
Doesn't that have the potential of slowing down this process?
Now this is where the thing is. They are wasting time, and they know the solutions. If they want to go to court, they should go to court and litigate the issues. Okay. But as far as I'm concerned, and many Kenyans who saw the process, the chair was there, questions were being asked. The panel was fair. To me, they asked all the questions. And the people we have gotten there, I have never seen some of them. At least for the person you've named, like Nur Hassan, used to be a chief administrative secretary, he used to be a director in sports, he used to be a director in sports and heritage. He served in government, so we are familiar with him. But there are many others that we don't know. In fact, this person who is being proposed as chair, I have never heard of him myself. So, and I don't think that he's going to influence the decision of whether William Ruto will win or not. I really truly believe that sometimes let us give credit to the processes in this country. If you have a problem with an institution, before you say the national intelligence is useless, the cabinet is useless, the parliament is useless, the judges are useless, please, as a leader, sit down and look back and know that wewe utakuja utaenda, but those institutions, we need them to keep this country together. We need this IEBC to succeed.
But Apogisio, there's definitely an issue with time. It's only 2 years to election. There's so many by-elections, voter registration, possibility of boundaries review and delimitation, so many things. But that is one consideration. But can we afford to go into an election with an IEBC that suffers from what your pet topic on trust deficit, seriously, due to the process of reconstituting it?
I think Fred, the main argument here is not even for whatever by-elections and so on. It's about the nature of our general election at the end of the year. Now lawyers are confusing us. They're arguing it should be 2026. Others are saying 2027. That's an argument in law about, you never know. If that is true, that the dates can change, then it's almost late to even deal with the by-elections that are there, whether IEBC sits now or not. Because the preparation and the budgeting for everything is a bit difficult to be captured now in the current budget. Let me also just weigh in on the whole issue about someone like Kalonzo Musyoka. By the way, and I don't know how we will begin to understand that Kalonzo Musyoka must be the one to stand. And now his team must be able to stand in the face of what government is doing and say no. Because if he doesn't do it now, if he's just quiet, it's going to haunt him later. So, and I keep saying, these are lawyers. These are very senior lawyers. They have law firms. They argue from a point of understanding and law. And so, if there's anything that's worrisome in a list that's going to manage your elections, you better raise them now. And that's what they're saying. I'm not so sure they have anything against anybody coming from anywhere. I don't think they have an issue. And I don't think they also want to have a situation where you can say, I know somebody in IEBC. The problem is that when the president is given 2 names, he has to pick one to be chairman. When they give him 9 names, he has to pick 6 from out of those. How he picks those 9 is what raises some of these questions. Who was eliminated? Maybe that's where the balance should have been, and so on and so on. So let's believe that by the time Kalonzo Musyoka and his team goes to the media, they have not just jumped out of bed and gone to the media. They have not just come from their houses and gone to the media. They have analyzed facts about this board, about this board. They have analyzed each person. They know that there's a likelihood that the face of this could favor a particular side of election. Now, whether that's true in real practice, I don't know. And we don't know about again, I want to argue about the chairman, because the chairman is simply a leader among those. And probably the concerns are more about the board members. So I want to suggest, if government is doing a good job, allow the opposition to do a good job as well. And how is Kalonzo going to be judged in the next elections is how well he ran the opposition, how well he argued for the opposition. And we cannot say he can't speak now. He needs to speak and be bold about it. He has to be able to point at weaknesses, point at any lacunas available, because the other thing is that they'll go to court to challenge this. That delays our processes. So he's saying, instead of that, let's talk, let's have a consultation.
He seems to be suggesting we go back to sort of the IPPG,
That's what it's,
where politicians actually get to choose the commissioners. Should we go back to that?
I'm not so sure, but IPPG was not a permanent situation. IPPG was a crisis-led situation. And it was, and at that time I was in Parliament. It wasn't for this kind of situation. That time the crisis was different. But you can begin now in just having a consultancy and say, this is how we've done this, and what, because I don't think now, can you imagine now saying, I don't think they're saying now withdraw, whatever the names are. They're simply saying, hear us out. Mm-hmm. This is our argument. This is our bitterness. This is what we want to see done. We're against this and this and this. And they can point out on the situations or the process. And the president can decide, okay, I'm giving an ear to these people. No. It can give an ear to the opposition. It doesn't have to be rigid. It doesn't have to be, So for purposes of the next election, because our elections are always going to be points of contention if we are not in agreement on certain things. Okay. The last team showed us that board members, commissioners, as we call them, can actually take sides.
Okay. Senator, you seem to disagree strongly with something.
I disagree because, you see, consultations cannot go on forever. This is a legal process. Let me tell you, even when we are passing laws within the Senate, there are those that you look at it, okay, I support the whole thing in general, but there are some issues I don't like about this. What do? You move an amendment. That amendment is defeated, for example. And that law passes through the National Assembly or vice versa, and it is due for signing. When the president is now signing that law, he's just acting as, a creature of law. You can't go at that point and tell Your Excellency, I raised issues in that debate, and these are not in this whatever. He's signing as a creature of law. It is his problem now. If he doesn't agree with that law, that he will push in a memorandum to go and try and override. He will have to sign a veto. Mm-hmm. But it cannot be, you didn't like one clause of that law, and for him it's okay. He's just operating as a creature of law. So assuming this process has gone, the people have made all these suggestions, it has gone to the president, and the president has been given names, and he has returned as a creature of law. He has done his duty. Now it is the National Assembly to constitute the vetting and the nomination approvals panel. Yeah? And then after that, the names are taken back. Those who fall, they fall through. And let me say something about this Public Approvals Act. I'm the one, when I resigned from government at the time, because at some point I resigned government and I became a normal member of parliament, and I pushed this law. This law is a very important law, because we read in the US at some point, a president appointed his brother, Attorney General, his other brother, and this is a very famous president. This president decided that the best people he knows, it's his brother, Attorney General, his brother to be cabinet secretary in whatever, and they were running government. The American people asked, there are no other people? So a law was brought that if you appoint your brother, your sister, your wife, whatever, your blood relatives, they'll not get a salary. And that is why when Hillary Clinton was serving as health secretary, she didn't get a salary at all. They were not paid by the state. When Bill Clinton nominated her, knew that she wouldn't get anything. Now, in Kenya, we haven't passed such a law against relatives and whatever, but we passed the parliamentary approvals of public officers. Okay. And the reason I suggested that law, and it has now gone through a lot of improvements, because it now includes even governors and so on, was specifically for this kind of thing, that we remove the power that the president had at that time to appoint anyone to cabinet, to be deputy, to be governor of central bank, to be ambassador, he could wake up in the morning, make his friends very important people, even if they are crooks. Now it's not possible. So Kalonzo Musyoka knows this. If there's a problem with this process, there will be opportunities to file affidavits to say this one was wrong, that was wrong, the other was wrong.
In court?
Not in court, before the committee.
The approval.
The approvals panel. And he will have all opportunities. And even then, if they don't like it, they can still go to court.
Okay.
This thing of coming out to the public and trying to create doubt, the trust deficit and whatever, is going to destroy this country. Let us build institutions. Let us help our institutions to grow so that when we exit the stage, those who come after us will have a stronger Kenya, a Kenya they can trust to run affairs of our state.
We only have 2 minutes, so I'll give you each a minute for your parting shot. Bwana Pogisio.
Fred, in matters election and electioneering, I still feel very, very strongly that this is when people close ranks. This is when political parties close ranks and consult. The consultations definitely should have happened before, and along the way continue to consultation, because the crises that come later are always going to be based on whether we trust this commission or we don't trust. If we begin to develop doubts in the commission, these doubts will carry to the election, and usually that's where we have problems. I don't know if the president has intentions of getting a favorable commission for his side, and the opposition feels like they are not in agreement. That consultation should be done, because then things will not be delayed. Yeah, I think going to court and so on will delay a lot, and the losses. Finally, I want just to say this. If this young man who is nominated for chairman qualifies, it's a very good way it's a good thing to allow him to actually chair this commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bwana Pogisio.
I'll finish my small parting shot by saying, let's go and listen again to that song by this famous gospel musician in Tanzania who talked about kushusha nyavu. Yeah? Kenyans, there are a lot of people who will tell you that, but it's the rainy season now. Go and shusha nyavu. Go and do your work. These guys, when they are making noise on TV and talking all this, oh, IEBC, what, it doesn't add your maize. Let's go back there and keep trying. This is where our country is heading, that people who are positive, putting positive energy, trying to push the nation forward, trying to do what is right for them. It is exam session for some other systems of education. Put in your effort. Let's build this country. Let those guys who want to make noise continue making noise. But you go and shusha nyavu and keep trying. Our nation is a good nation. I can tell you, because I've gone outside Africa and I've seen where we are. And I've been in Africa and I've seen where we are. We have every reason to be proud of our country, despite all this negativity that is being bandied. People are doing their work here. Let's not agree to that. Keep pushing on your space. If you have talent, keep pushing. If you are a farmer, keep pushing. And then let's pray that our nation will be better off.
Thank you so much. Senator Danson Mungatana of Tana River wamesema enda shusha nyavu. Asante sana, Senator. And Samuel Pogisio, who served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament and Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki II administration. Thank you so much for your time at TV47 and for your very well-considered opinions on the issues that we've discussed. After the break, Monday Blitz coming up. Duncan Mutua will be heading that conversation alongside Fred Arocho, who I believe is still outside the country. Do stand by for that. My name is Fred Indimuli. Good morning.